The first time I saw my own face on a funeral portrait, I didn't feel fear. I felt confusion, because the woman in that photo was me, but the story being told about her was not. She lived a quiet life, the priest said softly. Kind, gentle, private. I stood in the back of the room, dressed in black, invisible, listening to strangers describe a version of me that had never existed. And that was the moment I understood. I wasn't just presumed dead. I had been rewritten. Have you ever felt like people erased the real you and replaced it with a version that benefits them? If yes, comment number 1 below. I read all of them. I took a step forward, careful, measured, because this wasn't grief. This was observation. The room was full. Family, friends, people I trusted, people I loved, all gathered to bury me. My best friend was crying in the front row, convincing, controlled, almost beautiful, too beautiful. That was the first detail that felt wrong. Grief is messy, unpredictable, but hers was precise, rehearsed. I shifted my gaze to my fiancé, standing beside her, hand on her shoulder, comforting, stable, close, too close. That was the first layer, because proximity always tells the truth. I moved along the wall, staying out of sight, watching, listening, collecting, because if someone wants you dead, they will reveal themselves, not through what they hide, but through what they show, the priest continued, words blending together, until one sentence cut through everything. She left behind a considerable estate. There it was. The second layer. This wasn't just about me. It was about what I left behind. Money, assets, control. I turned slowly, scanning the room again, and then I saw him, my brother, standing near the back, not crying, not grieving, watching, just like me. That was unexpected, because if this was a plan, he wasn't supposed to be neutral, unless he wasn't part of it. Or worse, he was something else entirely. The ceremony ended. People began to move, slowly, softly, performing grief. I followed at a distance. As they transitioned to the reception hall, that's where the truth always surfaces. Not in silence, but in conversation. I stayed near the doorway, hidden, listening. You did everything perfectly, my best friend whispered. I froze, because perfection is never accidental. I told you she wouldn't suspect anything, my fiancé replied, calm, confident, certain. My hand tightened, but I didn't move. Not yet. Are we safe now? She asked. A pause. Then, yes, that was the third layer, because safety implies risk, and risk implies action. Something had been done, something final. I stepped back, heart steady, mind clear, because now I knew they believed I was dead, and belief is the most dangerous blind spot. I left the building, quietly, carefully, because I needed space, not to escape, to think. 3 days ago, I had been in a car accident, or at least that's what I was told. Woke up in a private clinic. No records, no staff names, no clear explanation. Just one statement. You're lucky to be alive. Now I understood. That wasn't luck. That was control. I wasn't saved. I was removed. The question was, by who and why? I got into my car, sat there, still, replaying everything. The accident, the clinic, the funeral, the conversations. And then it clicked, the fourth layer, because something didn't align. If they wanted me dead, why stage a survival? Why not finish it? Unless they couldn't. Unless someone intervened. I drove. Not home. Not anywhere expected. Somewhere only one person would know. My brother's place. I knocked once. The door opened immediately. He was waiting. I was wondering when you'd figure it out, he said. No shock. No confusion. Just acknowledgement. You knew, I said. He nodded. That they were going to kill me? Another pause. Longer. He thought he was, my brother said. That was the shift. Subtle, but critical, he thought. I repeated. My brother stepped aside. Letting me in. You weren't the target, he said. And that was the fifth layer. Because everything I believed was wrong. Then what was I asked. He looked at me. Directly. Seriously. You were leverage. Silence. Heavy. Expanding. Your fiancé isn't who you think he is, my brother continued. Neither is your best friend. Of course they weren't. I already knew that. But neither are you. That stopped me, because that wasn't part of the narrative. What does that mean? I asked. He walked to the table, picked up a file. Sound familiar? Always a file. Always the truth inside something physical. Your life, he said, placing it in front of me, isn't the one you think you lived. I opened it, and everything collapsed. Not slowly. Not gradually. All at once. Different records. Different history. Different identity. Everything I thought I knew was constructed. You were placed, he said quietly, years ago. For what? I asked. But I already knew. Because patterns repeat. To control something bigger, he said. Of course, it's always bigger. They didn't try to kill you, he continued. They tried to activate you. The room felt smaller, tighter. Realization, closing in. And the accident? I asked. Was the trigger. Of course it was. Pain creates openings. Disruption creates change. And the funeral? He smiled slightly. That was never for you. I froze. Because now, everything shifted again. It was for them, he said. To see who would show up. To see who would act. To see who would reveal themselves. The entire thing was a test, and they had failed. I sat down slowly. Because the truth wasn't emotional anymore. It was structural, designed, precise. Then what happens now? I asked. My brother looked at me, calm, certain. You decide who you are. Simple, but not easy. Because identity is power. And now, I had all of it. I leaned back, closed the file. And for the first time, I smiled. Not because I was safe. Not because I had won, but because now I understood the game, and I was no longer playing it blindly.